Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Wake Up to Your Life. I'm your host, Colleen Odegaard. Thank you so much. I hope you've been enjoying the show. If you do, I ask that you let your friends know, you share a link. That would be oh so helpful to bring more people to this program. All right, today we're talking about ambition. Is it possible to say yes to ambition while saying no to unhealthy habits that sometimes pervade corporate thinking? Do you think that you have to put in 12, 13, 14-hour days to climb the corporate ladder? We're talking about the ambition trap. When does success lead to burnout? My guest today is Anna Stallman. She is the CEO of Ascent Strategic Communications here in Charlotte. It was recognized as the fourth fastest growing business in Charlotte, and Anna was recently recognized as one of Charlotte's most admired CEOs. So Anna, clearly you're a big deal and business is going well. Yet this summer you did something that many people might think is crazy. You took a sabbatical, 5 weeks completely off. How did you come to this decision to do this?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about ambition, and I think you've teed up perfect. So sabbatical, I think we have to rewind a little bit. I started my company 5 years ago, coming out of a very ambitious part of my first part of my career. And it was ambition defined by working harder, doing more, climbing the corporate ladder. I had my second daughter, and there's a phrase that motherhood really helps you find yourself in a different sense, and I did do that. So coming out of that second maternity leave, ambition looked different for me, and I decided I want to start my own company and grow myself in different ways. Fast forward a little bit more, I decided I wanted to hire an employee, and hiring an employee meant you had to put policies in place. And I knew that if I was hiring an employee, I wanted to retain that employee. So I decided to create a sabbatical program. So the sabbatical program was actually created 5 years ago, not for me, but for my employees. And the hook was, you work for me for 5 years, I'm going to give you 5 weeks off.
Gosh, what a great perk for your employees. That's incredible. So you led the way this summer by being the first one in the company to take the sabbatical. Why was that important?
Well, you have to, right? You have to set the precedent. And if I didn't take it, then the next person coming up at 5 years would be like, should I take it? So I knew going in, for this to actually work and be a retention tool for my employees, I needed to practice what I preached. So I knew about a year ago that I was going to have to start prepping and preparing to take a sabbatical. And at first it felt like a lot of work to remove myself. Like it was almost more work to take a sabbatical because you have to, prep people, plan stuff, have conversations with clients of, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just taking some time off. And then you have the questions, is everything okay? Are you okay? Are you healthy? I'm like, yes, it's all good. As you said, business is going really well. I have a really strong team. I am taking a sabbatical. I'm giving myself rest. Here's who you can talk with. So it was exciting to take it, and a lot of hard work went into it.
Did you check your email at all during those 5 weeks?
I had a system in place, so I didn't have to check my email. I had someone designated to monitor my email for things that were not being addressed by someone else. I had an out of office up that clearly said I was out of the office. And if something really urgent happened, there was a way to text me. Quick story, first day on my sabbatical, an employee resigned. So,
what timing?
But we knew that she was going into an opportunity that was better aligned with her career goals. But that first day, there was a little fire drill. But the thing is, I was barely involved because I actually had plans in place of what to happen, who's in charge if something happens like that. So my team did some work. Then they called me and said, hey, so-and-so is no longer going to work with us anymore. Here's the plan in place. Are you good with this? And I was like, oh, great. Yes, I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. And they kept leading, and I was able to keep sabbaticaling, if that's a word. We should make that word.
We just made it a word. Yes. I like it. Why do you think ambitious people are so bad at stopping?
Well, because ambition is traditionally defined as doing more. And society defines ambition by bigger titles, bigger salary, bigger houses, more influence, having more control. Ambition is always kind of defined by these physical, material terms. And I think there's a different way to think about ambition. Ambition is, I would define it, a desire to change something or do something, and the willingness to put the work in to see it happen. And so ambition doesn't just have to be defined to growing a career ladder. I mean, you can actually grow in your career without having ambition. You just have to show up to work, do the things you're asked of. But you can have ambition and think more about it as a web format, so you can grow in different ways in your life and find other ways to fuel ambition. So for me, going on my sabbatical, what I really wanted to do during that sabbatical was actually further find my hobbies. Working really hard. I've always been the ambitious person in the societal sense of working hard to grow in my career. But once you layer in family and yourself and you kind of have a bigger worldview, you can see that there's other ways that you can be a better version of yourself. And for me, that was actually finding hobbies that I could love, spending time with my kids, calling back the friends that I owed a phone call back to. The ambition for more in life was something that fueled me. And that ambition to do those things is fully coming back to my work life as well, because I'm able to show up as a clearer, better, more articulate leader. My team is motivated to work just as hard as they were before my sabbatical as post, because they see the vision and they see that hard work is not just ambition. You can have work-life balance and be an ambitious person too.
Thank you so much for sharing your definition of ambition. I like that so much better than the way we traditionally think of ambition. And so what I'm hearing you say too, Anna, correct me if I'm mistaken, but that you took this ambition in other arenas of your life. It's not just career, because that's typically what we think of, but you looked at it in terms of, what do I want more of in my life? This is the wake up to your life moment. I want more hobbies. I want more connection with friendships that I've kind of ignored or put on the back burner for a while. These are people I care about and I love. I want to plug back into them. So this really spilled out into all areas of your life.
Absolutely. And striking that ambitious chord in other areas stretches you. Like, I had to learn how to play tennis, and that's hard. Learning a new hobby is hard. Mahjong, that is the hardest hobby. Let's just put that out there.
I'm entirely too stupid to learn how to play Mahjong. I love the aesthetic of the game. I am horrible at it. Horrible.
Yes. And you have to be ambitious to be able to play that. So ambition is not just in the workforce. You can be so ambitious in different parts of your life, and learning that work ethic in different areas can always come back to your work, but it really comes back to feeling like a fulfilled, waken up version of yourself. And I feel very alive, excited, very energetic. I wanted to come back to work because I had all of this energy and sense of fulfillment that I was able to scratch with my 5 weeks off.
It's incredible. I was telling you before, Anna, but I have a 22-year-old son who just graduated from Chapel Hill, and he started his grown-up job at a bank here in Charlotte, and he works a lot of hours. Yeah. They're really long. And I worry about him as his mother, and just because I see that it's not sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable to work 12-hour days all the time. But he says, this is just what I have to do. Now, granted, he's young. He's in the infancy of his career. So maybe it's okay for him right now. Maybe that's what's appropriate. He's a young man. He doesn't have, a family or anything like that. So maybe he's got the time to do it. But I worry about it. And I think the pushback I would get from him would be, well, this is just what I have to do. So as we go into break, I want you to ponder that, and we'll have you respond to this on the other side of the break. But for folks who aren't in your position, they're not the president and CEO of their company, and they are feeling burned out, what can they do to strike more of that work-life balance? So you'll be mulling over that. Yes. We will answer that question on the other side of this break. You are watching Wake Up to Your Life. Again, you are watching Wake Up to Your Life. We're talking about ambition and how we can avoid burnout. My guest today is Anna Stallman. But Anna, before I get back to you, Colleen, take that 3-shot. I want to say something. Colleen just said during the break when we were talking about mahjong and how hard it is, and I've decided I just suck at that game.
Mm-hmm.
Colleen, what did you say?
We're more Uno girls, you and I. You know, we're chit-chatty, drinking a little bit, having fun, kikiing.
Uno! Reverse, grab 2. I love it. Yes, that is much.
Yeah.
It's
Dummy proof. That's more.
Much more elementary, and I like it that way. I like it that way. Clearly, I don't have enough ambition, Anna. Clearly, I don't have it. I don't have it. Okay, so I was saying before the break, you are the CEO of your company, and you institute this policy that your employees will get 5 weeks off once they've been with the company for 5 years. You set the precedent. You were the first one to take the sabbatical. I'm sure there are people listening to this conversation right now, and they think, oh, well, it must be nice for her, that she can do that, but I can't do that at my job. And I am burning out. What would you say to folks who find themselves in that position?
Absolutely. So you can't control, in most cases, the policy of your business, and you can advocate for what your needs are, certainly. And what I would say, know the facts. 80% of people are currently experiencing burnout, according to studies. And typically when you get to that point of exhaustion and burnout, we all know the phrase of silent quitting, and you show up to the job, but your heart's not in it. You are kind of checking the boxes because you're so burnt out, you're past the point of feeling connected and fulfilled by your job. So that might lead to you quitting, resigning, finding another job, looking for more work-life balance somewhere. To replace that employee is going to take upwards of 2x their salary to replace them, because it's going to require HR resources and all of that. So burnout is important to a company to understand what are their employees' needs. And I think encouraging HR leaders to think about that of, it's not, can we afford a sabbatical policy? Can we not afford one? How do you recognize and reward and retain your people? But before, to your question of what can you individually do? How do you shape your mind on that? I really think it is about taking those small steps. First and foremost, I believe rest is a team sport, and you cannot be responsible. You can say, I'm gonna go take a nap, but the dishes are still in the sink, or your email is still piling up. And so having a culture where you really feel like a team sport, it allows us to cover for each other more often. And so thinking about, hey, how do we improve the culture in our family, in our work environment? How do we encourage each other where we can all work hard and play hard as well? And when someone is out of the office, you cover for them. So when you're out of the office, they're covering for you. Really thinking about rest as a team sport. Because I'm a business owner. I need my employees to work. I want them to be ambitious. I want them showing up to each day. I do not want them constantly on vacation. I want people working in our business. And to me, that really is underscored by creating a culture where there's a team environment. So you are happy when your colleagues are out of office, and they're happy when you're out of the office as well. But check in with yourself, taking a 5-minute breather, walking away from your desk, thinking, hey, is this a priority for tomorrow, or is this a priority right now? I am not the first to give this analogy of juggling balls. We're all juggling multiple balls. Some are plastic, some are glass. Your job is to figure out which balls that day are the glass balls that can't be dropped. Sometimes it's the work balls, sometimes it's family balls or personal balls or self-care balls. But the plastic balls usually can drop and you can pick them up the next day. So understanding prioritization of what is urgent, what has to get done right now versus maybe something that can get picked up tomorrow is helpful.
That's good. You found that while you were gone, your company ran just fine, right? Yes. Things did not crumble. You came back to everything in order. Everything was great. I think so many of us, we almost like to believe the place would fall apart without me. Everybody needs me. I have to do everything. And that, you say, is a problem.
Yes, it's a risk.
Yes.
Imagine, a single point of failure. So how I structure my team, there's always a backup for everything. If you are the single point of failure for anything, that's risk and vulnerability. And even need. There's a backup for every single part of my function, a part of my team. And that's, again, about teamwork. And so we can all remove ourselves and allow other people to cover. That idea of, so self-important that the place would fall apart without us, I mean, that's a story we're telling ourselves. And I think that's something that we all need to have sometimes a reality check of how am I teaching and growing people around me so they can also learn this skill set. I'm not saying offload your job to other people, but bring them into it. So again, we can cover rest is a team sport. You cannot do rest individually. It has to be a team sport.
Well, Anna, too, as a leader, don't you want to be training up people who are capable and competent and able to step in if you are not available to make a decision? A good leader should want that.
Absolutely. And again, I'm in a consulting business, and when I started the company, my name was on the door. So it was Anna Stallman Communications. Last year, we rebranded to Ascent Strategic Communications. Why? Because I was not the one doing all the work anymore. I had grown a team, and it wasn't just Anna Stallman doing the work. And I think that's really, really important when we think about companies and cultures. You have to give credit where credit is due. And to me, it is the team that has grown and taken on more responsibility. It is not about me at all. It is about our clients, their growth, their opportunities, and the team that is, taking on new challenges and growing with them. Because you don't have to be a CEO of a company to be ambitious. You can be ambitious in every single part of your life. And I think this notion that only CEOs or founders are the ambitious people, or you have to be an entrepreneur to control your life, is fundamentally not true. Every single person has ambition, and it's just where do you focus your energy and the accountability to yourself to do the hard work to reach those goals.
So many of us, too, don't you think we equate, being needed with being important? And again, that's sort of this egoic thing that is going on with us, that self-important thing that you mentioned. And I would say there was a version of me in my career, probably more than a decade ago, when I was insecure and working in television, and it can be a cutthroat business and people vying for your position. And I think I liked being the keeper of the information because I wanted to rest in my head and heart, and because that made me important and it made me needed, and I couldn't be replaced, which is such wrong thinking. It's such wrong thinking. It wasn't until I had to do work on myself and realize, oh no, there's room for everybody, and you want to bring everybody up. You want to raise a team. I want to take vacations. I want people to fill in for me.
Yes. I recently read, you are not a real leader until you've trained a leader who's trained a leader. So it's isn't that so
That's
big
so
to
good.
think about?
Yes.
Is to be a real leader, you have to pass the baton on to someone and also give them the skill set to pass it on further. So you're creating that next generation of leaders. And even if it's not leadership, you're just helping every one of us, climb to each other's peak ambitions, whatever that looks like. So and I'm guilty of that too. It did take me to having to wake up to my own life after my youngest daughter was born to realize I didn't have to work so hard or be married to a job or do the culture and to be ambitious in that sense. And then I had to also do the hard work of understanding that I didn't have to be a stay-at-home mom to be an ambitious and loving and present person for my children as well. And those are two different ambitious things. You can be so ambitious at being the best mother and get burnt out by that as well. So ambition, again, and fatigue and burnout is not just limited to the workforce. You can have misguided ambition that also is directed in the wrong way. So I think finding that balance, and I believe balance is a verb, not a noun, because we're constantly balancing new things in our life. What worked 6 months ago is not going to work in 6 months. So you need to find ways to, accelerate ambition in one way and maybe de-accelerate in other ways, and be okay giving up titles and, perceptions that you yourself are holding against yourself.
That's good. Really good. We will take another break and final thoughts with Anna Stallman right after this. You're watching Wake Up to Your Life. Okay, Anna, someone can't take 5 weeks. Again, you said start small. Maybe it's one day offline, experiment just That's what I believe in. The coach in me will tell people to just start small. You mentioned earlier, get up and walk around the office, take 5 minutes. Maybe you can take a half day and you disconnect, you unplug, you spend some time in nature or whatever it is that floats your boat. We can certainly find ways to do that, yes?
Yes, absolutely. It does not need to be a full 5 weeks. Again, that was a retention, a policy that I was able to create and pass onward. But every single one of us has free will to choose how we spend our days, our lives, how we show up. Yes, we have responsibilities and obligations, but you can find rest in your day. You can take a nap. You can put something on hold. One way that I really rested over my sabbatical was deleting all my social media apps from my phone. And that was a different type of rest because it wasn't just, not just going to the office, but it was breaking free of the social media world. So things that exhaust you silently, I think it's really helpful to take note of that, and you can take a break from those things. What can you rest from and come back to? I'm back on all my social media apps. I love them. But it was a really, really healthy break, and I was able to recharge not having that distraction.
When you talk about rest, I think it must require some trust too. If you're going to, you have to trust your team at work, or you have to do that, because otherwise you think, I can't rest because this won't get done, and oh my gosh, the kids won't have their back to school clothes, and this client won't have what they need. You have to have those systems in place that you've talked about so that you can trust that it's okay for you to rest.
Absolutely. And you have to be able to talk about it. Before I went on sabbatical, about a month out, I emailed every single one of my clients and said, I am taking a sabbatical. This is who is in charge. I will be back on so-and-so date. You are in good hands. But if you have any concerns, call me and we can talk about that. I owned it. It wasn't dancing around I'm going to be a little more unavailable this summer. Oh, sorry for my delayed response. I didn't apologize for it. I owned it and had very clear conversations and expectations. And the wild thing is, not a single client said, well, this doesn't sound right, or they didn't say, are you sure so-and-so is up to the job? Every single person said, good for you, fantastic, enjoy it, we're in good hands. And I think that trust is tied to good communication around it. So you communicate with those who are impacted by it, what the expectations are for you and how to get in touch with you.
That was excellent communication. And I would expect nothing less from you, quite frankly. But that is to tell people to own it. As you said, yes. I am doing this. Here's who's in charge in my absence. And I'll see you when I get back. Right? I think that's great to make it very clear. And why is it so hard for some people sometimes, just to be honest and own it?
Because we're Americans and we have hustle culture, and
yes.
we have to apologize for taking time off. And a week vacation, if you're fortunate to take a week vacation, it's really you can take that time off, you can spend it at the beach, or wherever you might be, or maybe you don't even travel. But that Sunday night before you go back to work, we all have the anxiety, and it's not restful then, because we feel like we have to apologize or catch up or do twice as much work in the coming week because we took a week off. So that's not rest either. If you are just delaying work or building up so much anxiety about missing work. So we have to let go of this cultural expectation that rest is a privilege and it's a reward, when it's truly just a fundamental need for all of us to show up as our best versions of ourselves.
Oh, amen to that. Yes, you are describing me, by the way. I'm taking a week off, and then that Sunday night is, oh no, what's awaiting me when I get back in the office? All right, Anna, go ahead and plug all the things. Where would you like people to find you, or find out how to work with you, or you could come speak to their team?
I love this. And Colleen, when you asked me to come on and talk about sabbatical, it did dawn on me. I am a business. I do work. We have a company of working professionals. So, yes, my company is called Ascent Strategic Comms. We are at ascentcomms.com. You can follow us on Instagram. I personally write a LinkedIn series with my thoughts each month, sometimes twice a month. You can find me on LinkedIn. And we'd love to connect and talk about how we can help companies achieve their objectives, and truly believe working harder is not always the best option. We like to work smarter at Ascent.
We like it. Anna Stallman, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Again, that does it for this episode of Wake Up to Your Life. Again, I ask you if this resonated with you, if you liked it, let people know. Let people know where they can find this show. I do appreciate that so much. Until next time, take care and know that I'm rooting for you.